When the world's most powerful families like the Rothschilds start to prepare for worsening conditions, it's best we take notice. Of course they have an agenda, but some of their actions are public. That allows us to track their progress and monitor the results. So what exactly is Sweden's biggest banking dynasty telling us about future events? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at what's happening within Sweden. I think it's very important to cover the issues that are taking place with these big corporations, banking dynasties like the Rothschilds, like even the Rockefellers, and those in Sweden, I'll show you in just a second, are taking steps towards their ultimate preparations for a downturn. And this is going to come out, I'll show you right here in just a second, but essentially all of these big families are starting to make preparations in their public companies. So we don't know what they're personally doing. We're talking about wealth that's bigger than the Forbes list. All of these different banking dynasties, they have more wealth than Jeff Bezos, but they know how to hide it. They know how to conceal it so that they don't have to deal with the same issues as everybody else. These are families that go back hundreds and hundreds of years, and they know exactly what to do. So here we have this issue whereby we got these big families. They have corporations and they want the corporation to do well. That allows us to be able to get just a glimpse of their activities. It's not going to tell us what they're doing on a daily basis. I don't know how much money each of these individuals have under their control, but certainly we can get an idea. So let's begin by taking a look at this article out of Business Insider. It shows us the wealthiest families in Sweden, and number one, the Wallenberg family, the Swedish business family that is almost synonymous with capital. The empire started in 1856, and they have a company today which you might know, SEB. It evolved into the leading corporate bank in the Nordics. So this is one company that owns a massive amount of Sweden's largest companies, all right? And they own a bunch of other big companies, which I'll talk about in a second, and that includes some of what we see going on right now, maybe a little bit of a bubble. I'm going to talk about that in a second. This article is out of Bloomberg. Wallenberg Family's Investor AB prepares for global downturn. So let's get into the article very quickly. I'll try to do this as fast as I can. The Swedish Wallenberg family's holding company, Investor AB, it owns stakes in about a fifth of the companies listed on the country's benchmark large cap index, is preparing for a potential weakening of the global economy. All right, so they've got a big portfolio, multi-billion-dollar portfolio, and what they've said is that things are changing and we need to make preparations according to that. They're not saying that everything is just fine. And they, of course, use their political ways. They try to make it very soft. They try to whitewash it, but you're going to get some information here from them, and you need to take what they say and connect the dots. We've seen what other ones like Rothschilds, I've done videos about them before and what they're doing. So look at this. There are a number of things that we need to watch, and this is the CEO saying this, but I don't have a crystal ball. For us, the most important part is that we're prepared, and that's why we issued a big bond and why we work closely with our companies to make sure we're flexible and can adapt to different environments as good as we can. So this is what happens here. They're talking about the issues. They're making it known that they're preparing, and you need to pay attention. We don't know exactly what the Wallenberg family is doing every day, but we can see a little piece of the puzzle. And you use this piece of the puzzle, you use what I've talked about with the Rothschilds as a piece of the puzzle, you look at some of the charts as a piece of the puzzle, you look on the streets where you live as a piece of the puzzle, and you put that all together and you start to realize this doesn't look too good. Okay, so there's issues that they talk about in here. The trade issues are just on top of the list for them, that this is ultimately going to create weaker and weaker environments, and the longer it goes on for, the worse it is. So that's what he says here. That's basically just a summary. It talks about the issues that we're experiencing, Brexit and Italy and Argentina and Turkey and so on. So that's basically what he says in here. I don't want to waste your time with it. If you're interested in reading the article, check it out. A link will be in the description under the sources. Now this right here, Investment Empire, Investor AB holds stakes in many of Sweden's largest companies. You may know of these companies for yourself, and essentially just gives us a breakdown of the percentage of the stake. They own really big percentages of a lot of these companies. Now, one thing that you might find interesting, and we'll get into this further, NASDAQ. That's a big stake too. Pretty significant. So let's look further into this and see what we got. So if you want to see any company out there, all you need to do is go into a search engine and you type in the name of the company and then 13F, 13F. And that will give you the actual documentation provided by the SEC, and this allows us to see what these companies are doing. Now, it's a delay, so we don't know what they're doing today. For example, this information comes as of the end of June. That's the most recent numbers we have. What they've done between now and then, we have no idea, unless they publicly admit it. Okay, so we're looking at this now. We can see that. We can add it to what we've seen with the Rothschilds, with all the other companies. We can see Berkshire, what they're doing, and so on. So we get this information, we piece it all together, and essentially their US portfolio is heavily invested in NASDAQ. So you know those tech stocks, you know that massive amount of tech stock increase that we've seen over the years? All of these different big institutions, they've been buying in. They've been buying in through whether it's ETFs, whether it's direct investment, whether they're buying up bonds, who knows? There's all different ways that they can get into it. And here is just yet another example of these major institutions buying in to the tech-heavy NASDAQ. So this is one example. I mean, in this case, they're showing us the market value at about $1.8 billion. All right, they have added money in there, no doubt, into the different companies. But I look at this and it's just a small piece of their total investment. But this tells us at least something, you know. We have a direct breakdown of what they're doing with their 13F filing. Okay, so if you want to see any company, you can just type the name of the company, 13F, and that will give you a breakdown, all right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about Sweden very quickly. Sweden's top 15 trading partners. And by the way, if you are in Sweden, you have to share your information with us. It's very important that others who are not in Sweden are going to get some data from those who are inside. I want to know about your situation that's happening right there with employment. Are there lots of jobs? Do you see a lot of help wanted in the signs of the stores? Do you see a lot of stores that are boarded up? What are you seeing on the ground in Sweden? You remember, it's not just me on this channel, all right? Everybody in the comment section is very, very helpful. And I want to thank each and every one of you, no matter where you live around the world, for your input, because this makes this channel amazing. It's you. Okay, let me go on. Below is a list showcasing 15 of Sweden's top trading partners in terms of export sales. That is countries that have imported the most Swedish shipments by dollar value in 2017. All right, now looking at this. Germany on the top of the list. I wasn't expecting that actually, but here we have $16 billion. That's almost 11% of total Swedish exports are going to Germany. Very, very important partner. All right, then of course we have Norway, Finland, and Denmark are number 2, 3, and 4 in there, and United States actually comes up as number 5. So you can read through the list if you're interested. Just over 3/4 of Swedish exports in 2017 were delivered to the above 15 trade partners. Okay, so they have obviously a bunch of them, of these countries that they're dealing with primarily. Okay, 3/4 of them, 15 countries, and you know, you can really look at it. I would say half of their exports are going to just a handful of countries. All right, now that's usually the way it works. As an example, Canada, you will see almost all of the exports go to the United States, and that's not smart. The more trading partners you have, the more, I would say, beneficial it is. Of course, there are deals that you can work out. The more you're going to sell, the more you're going to export or import, you get better deals, and I understand why they do this. Of course, if two countries are geographically aligned, that makes for obvious reasons why you would want to do business. Now, this is important if you live in Sweden, if you want to invest in Sweden, or if you just want to understand the geopolitical environments that exist today, as well as how investment works. This is key to understand a country's exports and imports, Who do they give their money to? Who do they give their products to? What's happening back and forth? Understand this for all countries if you can, okay? And then I want to connect that in with what's happened with the stock market today. Now, all of these companies out there, all of these central banks, they're buying up shares of the US market. And something has really changed recently. I'm really interested to see the 13F of the Swiss National Bank. I want to see what's happening with the Bank of Norway. I want to see all of these and what they've been doing over the last little while. So I'm interested to really get that new report and see if anything has changed. Of course, I will bring it to you as soon as I get that. Here we have essentially showing us that depending on which market you look at, I mean, this is the Dow Jones as an example, sitting right at one of their moving averages. This one sitting just below the 200-day moving average. The Russell 2000 moving below all of their moving averages. The NASDAQ is below that as well. And I think this is including the end of close on Friday. Don't quote me on that. The font is extremely small. But essentially, we are not looking good in this regard because all of these moving averages are what the traders are looking at, what the algorithms are looking at. And this, of course, makes very it makes a big wave in those who are looking at these different investments. They have to decide, well, maybe we won't put our money into the US stock today. Maybe it's a little bit overvalued. Let's look at China. Let's look at Europe. They are both taking a beating recently. Maybe now's the time to invest. And you start to see that readjustment of the portfolios of these multi-billion-dollar funds and so on. Now I want to switch gears very quickly before I end the video, just talking about what's happening in Italy today. And it's important to understand what they're doing. I see this right now as becoming a very big issue. What's happening with them is that they're suggesting, okay, we're not going to do the whole 2.4% deficit. We're going to be, by the way, this is a translated article, so it probably doesn't look right to you. But regardless, they're saying, okay, let's go back with 2.1. Let's create that. Come on. Whatever number that they say, they're going to be higher than it. So let's not try and fool ourselves here, all right? So this is what's happening. They go back and forth. They're going to agree upon a deal, and it's not going to be good regardless. This here is just an example of the way that this EU system is built and how terrible it is. Why are they arguing about this? I don't know. It's just creating more and more turmoil in this country. And I'll finish off with this. I really love this cartoon. I don't know who the credit is to, but it's pretty funny. And I'll leave you with that. That's the way that I see it, actually. That's kind of why I mentioned it. But essentially, here we have the case of these countries all stuck together, one interest rate, one currency, and it's doomed to failure. So if you found the video informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel. So I do appreciate that very much. And last but not least, if you want the financial education you were not taught in school, well then, these two books have it all. Once you get these books, you flip through them, you understand the info, you're going to know everything. I'm talking about everything from the foundation, the history, everything that you need to know to make wise investment choices and just to be educated on the subject. But I do so in a way that you don't need to know anything about finance at all. Literally anybody could read these books, and I make it so easy. I got rid of all the jargon, and that's really what I do, and I hope that you do appreciate it. I've heard from so many people over the years that have said that this book was just so helpful to them, and it's really nice to hear. So that's all. If you want to check them out, link in the description of the video. If you're more interested in the audiobook version, you can get that at themoneygps.com.